If you finally want to really understand the power of the dark side, and learn about things like the origin of certain Sith rules, then you know what you have to do. Watch the following 10 Sith stuffed entries. Do it! So I am Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 things you didn't know about the Sith. Number 10, we've only ever seen 5 Sith alive on screen. Despite there being a grand total of 9 Skywalker Saga features, a couple of spin-off big screen entries, and a number of live-action and animated series out there for fans to relive over and over again at their pleasure, the number of living Sith Lords that have been seen in those projects is surprisingly low. Now sure, there have been a whole host of different dark side practitioners involved in everything from the movies, to the likes of the Clone Wars and even this year's Ahsoka. And despite even Darth Bane showing up for an appearance as a vision in the Clone Wars, the fact he wasn't actually amongst the living at the time still means that only 5 alive and kicking Sith Lords have shown up on screen to date. At time of recording then, Darth Vader, Darth Sidious, Count Dooku, Maul, and Savage Opress are the only corrupted souls to have fully risen to the level of Dark Lord of the Sith on screen. Now I've got a quick question for you. Who is your favourite Sith Lord? One of the ones I've mentioned or somebody else? Let me know in the comment section down below. Number 9, why the Rule of 2 was created. When talking to his new apprentice/brother during the 5th season of the Clone Wars, the recently returned Maul tells Savage Opress always two there are, a master and an apprentice. And if this sounds a little familiar, it's because that's pretty much the exact thing Master Yoda told Mace Windu towards the end of The Phantom Menace when talking about the return of the dreaded Sith. Both powerful Force users were actually referencing the Sith Rule of 2 here, a commandment put in place by none other than the aforementioned Darth Bane. But why did this particular Sith Lord decide to establish the rule in the first place? Well, a millennium before the events of the Skywalker Saga kicked off, the Jedi finally got the better of their ancient enemy, with Bane being the only remaining survivor after the Sith's desire for more power left them turning on one another and making themselves vulnerable to their adversaries. So, in an attempt to keep this from happening again, as the Sith looked to exact revenge on the Jedi, Bane created a new rule that stated there could now only ever be a powerful dark side using master and an apprentice craving that power, who will one day strike them down and take their place. Of course, with Sith being greedy souls at their core, this rule has been bent and broken on numerous occasions over the years. And unsurprisingly, the return of the Sith never really lasted all that long in the wake of Darth Sidious's rise, and then fall again. Number 8, the Sith can't become Force ghosts. As previously noted, Darth Bane did pop up as a vision of sorts during Yoda's quest to learn how to manifest his life after death in the Clone Wars series. But this was little more than a test designed by the Force priestesses to see whether they could convince the Great Master to join the dark side. Unlike the various Jedi legends who have discovered the secrets to immortality through the Force, the Sith can't actually become Force ghosts after death. That's not to say the dark side users haven't figured out their own creepy ways to cheat death over the years though. Take Darth Sidious for example. That wrinkly menace opted to transfer his soul into a clone body in the wake of being chucked down a reactor shaft in Return of the Jedi. And while Darth Vader did technically show up as a Force ghost after his death in that same feature, this only went down after Anakin Skywalker had saved his son, redeemed himself, and seen the light during his final moments. Simply put, the Sith have some funky ways to continue causing chaos after dying, but they still don't have it in them to go all blue after biting the dust. Number 7, they have a few important worlds. When Yoda eventually encountered a vision of the creator of the Rule of 2 during those aforementioned tests, the world he was wandering around on was a place known as Moribund. As noted in the Clone Wars show, this was the ancient homeworld of the Sith. Known in the past as Korriban, this planet was transformed into a wasteland due to the many different wars that were fought there over the years, and it also held the various tombs of many a deceased Sith Lord. This isn't the only place the Sith made their mark on, however. There's also Exegol, the foggy and dark hidden world of the evil Force users seen in The Rise of Skywalker, a place that boasted the Sith Citadel and more than a few members of the Sith Eternal. Then there's Malachor, a world that the Sith Sith decided to build a horrifying superweapon on, and a Sith temple underneath its surface. Said destructive weapon ultimately saw many a Jedi and Sith being suddenly killed and petrified in the Great Scourge of Malachor. And speaking of the many worlds the ancient enemy of the Jedi opted to build on at various points in Star Wars history, number 6, the Jedi Temple was built on a Sith shrine. That's right, the iconic Jedi Temple found on the city planet of Coruscant wasn't the first thing to occupy that particular piece of land. Before the Jedi headquarters were established on the world, the Sith erected a shrine on top of a strong light side vergence in the Force there, a sacred mountain spire. The aim was to corrupt this place via the dark side of the Force, and they ultimately did exactly that. However, once the Jedi had defeated their mortal enemy during one particular battle on the planet around 5000 BBY, said shrine was raised, and what would eventually grow into the Jedi Temple seen during the prequels was built over its foundations by 4 Jedi Masters. And while the Jedi seemingly did all they could to wipe out the Sith's presence on the planet over the next few thousand years, they still couldn't stop the forces of darkness from reclaiming the site in the end, as Emperor Palpatine transformed the Jedi Monument into his own personal Imperial Palace post-Order 66. Number 5, the Sith actually have a code/mantra too. While you may have understandably assumed that the despicable Sith didn't really stick to any real rules or code, outside of the already noted Rule of Two, but even that one had a habit of being broken, didn't it? You would actually be wrong. Similarly to how the Jedi Order follow their own Jedi Code, one that contains its own mantra with such comforting words as "there is no emotion, there is peace," the Sith also have their own set of core beliefs too. Created as an inversion of the aforementioned code of their enemy, the Sith Code contains ominous gems such as "peace is a lie, there is only passion," and "through power I gain victory," and it was first seen in the animated Clone Wars series during the Altar of Mortis episode in Season 3. Whereas the Jedi Code's mantra focuses on peace, wisdom, and control, the Sith's version highlighted how these Force users relied on strength and passion to gain victory and freedom after choosing to walk the darker path. In other words, someone clearly took one look at the Jedi way of doing things and thought, nah, the opposite sounds like more fun. Number 4, who was the first Sith? While the current Disney Star Wars canon may not have gone as far as to identify exactly which rogue Jedi created the Sith Order thousands of years before the Skywalker saga went down, the Legends section of the galaxy far, far away very much did. Going by the name of Ajunta Pall, this leader of the Dark Jedi was exiled from the Order before eventually becoming the first ever Dark Lord of the Sith. Why did Paul clash with the Jedi around 7000 BBY though? Well, this intelligent Jedi Master actually figured out how to create and shape life while studying alchemy, and with the Order feeling that this was simply not on, he was forbidden from continuing his work, something that led to Paul and his Dark Jedi followers kicking off a war with the Jedi soon after. As the 100-year darkness period reached its end though, Paul and his pals were defeated. Refusing to simply accept this, Paul would then land on the planet of Korriban, aka Moraband, you know, the one I mentioned earlier, and eventually create a whole new Sith empire in the years that followed his defeat at the hands of the Jedi. And the rest was galaxy-changing history. Number 3, they share their name with an alien species. Sticking with that moment in Legends time when Ajunta Pall arrived on the planet Korriban all those years ago, it was here when the exiled Dark Jedi discovered a race of alien beings known as, well, the Sith. These humanoids with red skin, facial tentacles, and bone spurs very much knew the ways of the dark side of the Force, and after eventually winning the Korriban natives over with their impressive technology and own ability to control the Force, Paul and the rest of the exiles would go on to be worshipped by these Sith. Also, in the wake of Paul becoming the first Dark Lord of the Sith, Paul's followers would then interbreed with the Sith over the years as the Sith Empire continued to grow. There's actually a Sith race presence in the current canon universe too. These similarly red-skinned and tentacled aliens are also known for using the dark side of the Force, but fans are still yet to see either version of the original Sith in the galaxy far, far away on the big or small screen. Number 2, what goes into making a Sith lightsaber? On top of a fondness for black clothing and hoods, the Sith are also known for using a red lightsaber when clashing with Jedi, and any other unfortunate soul who stands in their way. But did you know exactly how a Sith gives their trusty laser sword that distinctly evil look? It's well known that a kyber crystal powers the weapon of the Jedi and Sith. However, while the Jedi simply place their chosen crystal within the rather useful tool and watch a much more positive color burst out, the Sith have to do something pretty, well, disturbing. With it not being possible to create the color red naturally during the lightsaber creation process, Sith must pump dark side energy, rage, fear, and all that horrible stuff into their chosen kyber crystal to achieve the desired result, an act known as bleeding. This wasn't always a straightforward process either, with Ben Solo's attempts to bleed his kyber crystal leading to it ultimately being cracked. And that's what forced the eventual Kylo Ren to go for a cross-guard lightsaber, diverting the extra heat created by the crystal out the sides of his weapon's handles via vents. And number 1, why their eyes turn yellow. Along with the aforementioned red blade and unmistakable attire, the Sith can also be spotted sporting a set of startling yellow eyes on occasion. The various evil figures in the galaxy didn't simply pop in a set of spooky contact lenses after deciding to take a walk on the dark side though. Eyes are seen as the windows to the soul within the Star Wars universe. So when a Sith finally fully embraced the hate and anger sitting within them, their eyes would naturally reflect what was going on inside at that very moment. This can clearly be seen when Anakin Skywalker viciously slaughters the separatist leaders on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, with his eyes going from yellow as he slices through the room to his typical color when talking to his beloved Padme shortly after. And when it comes to Maul, well, he was clearly just not loving life throughout the entirety of his time on screen. However, some of the more powerful Sith out there could actually mask the unlimited evil and hatred that would usually be seen in their eyes, as Sheev Palpatine masterfully did throughout the Clone Wars, before, he eventually decided to don the yellow and red-eyed wrinkly bag look full-time. And that is our list, folks. Know of any other things that people just didn't know about the Sith? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you are down there. Also, if you are a fan of this sort of thing, then please head on over to whatculture.com and find some more fantastic articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Darth Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you. Cheers for giving in to your anger with us today, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye-bye!